And we're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 146 of Fans of Power. I am Joe Amato, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Tyler T-Rex Baker. And T-Rex, we're being joined by somebody that we should have on more often. She was on, God, almost a year ago. We were mentioning this actually before we started the show. And she's known in the horror community and the Masters of the Universe community. And, well, some people know her as Penny Dreadful, but she's I want to introduce to you Danielle Galerter. Did I do it right? Did I do the part
Well,
right?
you did that great, Joe. Like, you should audition for the next Dracula movie because
Yeah. A dime store Dracula at that.
No, but I got it. I did get the last name right because I wanted to make sure, like you said, I nailed it.
It is my late husband Magoo. He was of Romanian descent, and that last name has that Galerter. It's like if you pronounce it like that, it kind of sounds right.
Okay, yeah, because you said do it with the accent. You said try to do it with a Dracula.
I just wanted to hear you do a Dracula accent.
Oh, so that was it. You're just setting me up all along. No, but thanks for joining us. I'll pass it to Tyler so you can say your hellos too.
God, I'm so glad to have her back. I mean, can we put this in stone? Because we know you do like your one woman show and all that stuff too in your spare time as well. What do we got to do to get you back on the podcast on a fairly frequent basis? Like, we know your talents are in high demand, but who do we have to kill? Does Joe have to raise funds to reveal himself publicly to get you on the pod? What do we have to do?
The Joe Amato Kickstarter campaign to get
it's like Joe's kid, like Jerry's kids. I can talk to people in the audience. We're trying to raise money to reveal his mask and get you on the podcast more. And
I'm so happy to be here. I'm here right now, and anytime ask if I can do it, I will. But I can't do it all the time because as we all do, we all have stuff going on. But I always enjoy visiting with you guys, and I always have a blast talking to you. So thanks for having me back on.
No, and it's always great having you on. And yeah, we'll be talking about, we're gonna do some discussion of the Ninjor part of the newspaper comic strip book, in that series. It's the third part, you said. But before that, well, PowerCon just happened, just a little over a week ago. So we'd love to hear your whole experience of going there, some of the things, the highlights, some of the stuff that was going on, because that must have been a blast.
Man, it was the whole thing is like a blur because it felt like it went by so fast this year. I got there on Friday night, and right away I was working in the toy room, the exclusive room, because to get your exclusives you bring the tickets and we stamp them, and then we give you your exclusives and you leave. So the line for the exclusives on Friday was pretty substantial. But it was great. Like right away, as soon as I walked in, within 5 minutes of walking in, I saw Val, I saw James Etok, I saw Pixel Dan, I saw Daniel Benedict, I just all these people just walking around, Rachel Crockett, like getting ready for the convention and stuff. So it was nice to see a lot of familiar faces there right off the bat. And then Saturday, I'll tell you, this PowerCon was the biggest PowerCon that we've ever had. Like it was sold out on both days, on Saturday and Sunday, which has never happened before. I mean, the convention floor was mobbed with people. It was really cool, like to see that many people there. Like, I mean, PowerCon's, it's never going to be like San Diego or anything like that, and I wouldn't want it to be like that. It's not that enormous, but for this year, it was a pretty big year for the show, and it was a good feeling in the air. A lot of good vibes going around.
Was there anything that was mainly like the fans were really clamoring and talking about? Like, is there something you think maybe really drew the fans in even more this year? Which hopefully they'll continue to grow and grow, but something maybe in particular.
I would say the presence of Mark and Rebecca Taylor was like really exciting. Like people were just galvanized by the fact that they were there, and I'm sure you've heard them speak. They're just really good speakers, and Mark had the entire panel room just transfixed with what he was saying. It was just like both of them really telling the audience some really inspirational stuff about being creative and staying true to your vision of what you want to create and stuff. And he was the videos will be going up on YouTube.
I was going to ask about that, if there was some videos we'll be able to see.
Yeah. It's I mean, it was Mark Taylor's panel. I kept hearing over the weekend that just people loved hearing him talk. So that people were excited about that. And as far as like product is concerned, as you saw, I mean, they didn't show anything for new for Collector's Choice or Club Grayskull, unfortunately. But the thing people were talking about the most, two things. Thundercats. Because Mattel had the Groon and Jaga in the display case. Because Mattel was there this year. They came back to PowerCon because they weren't there last year. They came back this year. They brought all this product potential stuff that they want to do. But those two Thundercats in the case, that was the talk of the town. And it's a He-Man convention, but everybody was really excited about the Thundercats. Like, this Thundercats coming back. And there's rumors going around that I mean, if you saw the interview Pixel Dan did with Brandon Sapinski, they are thinking about doing something to bring them back. So let's fingers crossed. I hope they do it. You know, that would be awesome. And then the vintage reveals for Masters of the Universe that Super 7 showed. People were really excited about that with Teela. They showed Teela. They showed the He-Man with the robot. You know,
that one had me amused. I did think that was pretty cool. The robot He-Man.
Yeah, yep. And what did they show one other one too?
Well, I mean, they finally showed, I think, Eldor and Hero packaged or something.
Package of Eldor and Hero. Yeah, a lot of people were excited about that.
A question for you about that. There was one question, didn't mean to interrupt you, but a lot of fans have been wondering, and of course, including myself, with Hero, I mean, is he going to be back metal? Did they mention? Because that, oh man, in a lot of these groups I'm in, people are concerned because they're on the fence. They said that's like a make and break for a lot of them because we know that iconic look. Now, have they mentioned? Because I haven't seen any interviews or anything. I've actually missed all the interviews that have happened. So
yeah, I noticed that too, Joe. And you're not the only one to bring that up. Like, several people were standing there looking at the Hero figure in the display case and commenting on the back metal, and that they hope that he's back metal, because I don't know if you've noticed, like in previous times that they've shown the Hero prototype, they had like a little torso next to him that was back metal, but they didn't have that there this time. And that made me worried too, that they're not going to do it. Brian didn't mention anything, or Josh or Brian from Super 7 didn't say anything to my knowledge about it, but it would be worth asking. Like, I know they sometimes answer questions on their Facebook page, so it might be worth just asking if it's going to be back metal or not, because I really don't know. I hope it is, because it needs to be. If they were going to finally get a vintage Hero figure, it has to be as authentic as possible.
Yeah.
You know?
No, agreed. It has to have the back metal. But I'll pass some questions to Tyler real quick. Go ahead, Tyler.
I'm just kind of engrossed in just hearing the experience. Like, can you elaborate, like, in as much detail as you can stand, just the experience, like when you walk in, you know, is everybody just kind of mingling with each other? I mean, is it different from a standard, you know, convention of, you know, celebrities and autograph signings and stuff like that? What's the vibe like? I mean, obviously they're there for the same interest, but does it differ greatly, or is it set up the same? What's
okay? For me, I'm sure it's not the same for everybody, but I get the sense that it's the camaraderie that you sense immediately when you walk in. It brings a feeling of joy. It's just joy. Like, everybody is there to celebrate something that they're really passionate about and that they love, and everybody. It's so easy to talk to everybody because everybody you already have something major in common that you talk about. So I think Jeremy DeWitt said it best. Like, I met Jeremy DeWitt from Podcasters of the Universe. Like, I met him on Friday night. He was one of the people I saw when I walked in. Him and Steve Shoddy and Matt Rodriguez. They were standing there in the hallway, and as soon as I saw Jeremy DeWitt, I recognized him from his pictures and stuff and videos, and I was just like, oh my God, it's Jeremy, you know, and I was like so excited to meet them, and we hugged and we talked, and it was great. It was like I already knew them, you know, like it was the first time I ever met them, and it was like they were like old friends right away, you know, like, and the next day Jeremy was like, you know, this feels like a high school reunion, but none of us went to high school together, and we all like each other. It's like, yeah, that's true. You know,
What a different age it is. Like you say, with the age of social media, how we can interact so much online. Yes, it's like we do know each other, even if we've never met each other, in person, and that must be a hell of an experience. First, I just want to say hello because we have some people that are watching us here in the chat, and we got Grimbot, Adam Gab. Yeah, yeah, we know him. Adam Gabbard, Christopher Dahlberg, Fedmon, and David McMullen, and JSP. So thank you all for joining us. But no, that is the thing that must be so, it feels so personal and family-like, is unlike, like you said, when you go to a San Diego Comic-Con, I mean, that's just covering every damn thing in the world you can imagine. And you're not really knowing the strangers or people that walk by. Sure, you might know some people on the panel, but when it comes to PowerCon, you know what you're getting. You know it's all about masters. So beyond the people that you know that have worked on the properties, you have all these people in the community. So it's finally great to be around. It must feel so close-knit, like a family.
It really, that's exactly what it does feel like. It feels like a family. Like, it's just like a family reunion. It's people, everybody says it, but it's like once you're there and you feel it, you see that, it's just, yeah, that's just, everybody is just happy, and then and the creators too, like the guests that come, like on Sunday night, we had like a little party, like a little get together, and we usually do that every year, like every kind of impromptu party. We go out and get some pizza and beer and soda and stuff. And then, the fans, all the fans come in, we all hang out, and then a lot of the guests show up too. Like this year, Rob Lamb was hanging out with us, and Robbie London from the Filmation cartoon, and that was,
man.
Yeah, first time Robbie London had ever been at PowerCon. He
oh, really?
Yeah, he doesn't do conventions, and he was astounded by it because people were going up to him. Like when he told me he created Orko, like I almost like wept because I love Orko so much. I was like, oh my God, thank you. And I hugged him, and he was just like, he was just moved by the fact that it meant that Masters of the Universe and Princess of Power meant so much to so many people on such a deep level, and that it resonated so strongly with them 35 years later that they're still like so passionate about it. And he was just really moved by that, and he said he will never forget it. He sent me a really nice email after the convention about how much he enjoyed it. And Rob Lamb too. Rob Lamb is such a nice guy. Like he just, as soon as I saw him Friday, like he was standing with John Carroll, and I went up and started talking to him, and Rob just starts talking about Filmation experiences and stories about Filmation and all of that kind of stuff. Fun stories, behind the scenes stuff of what it was like to work there and stuff.
Speaking of that behind the scenes, was there any cool little hidden gems that maybe popped up from the Filmation that were put on the table? Anybody show anything that was maybe never seen before? Something like that? Or?
James did preview the first act of The Return of Faker, which I know Joe doesn't want any spoilers, so I won't say.
Well, hey, if you want, I could just take my headphones off, and then when you're done,
let me hear it.
Yeah, go ahead. You do it, and you give me the thumbs up when you're done.
Okay. I mean, it's not. Can you hear? You can't hear me anymore. Okay. It's not major spoiler. It was like James. We had after hours programming. James screened the first act of Return of Faker, which is mind-blowingly awesome. Like, Dusan, I know you're listening, you're a genius, dude. Like, wow. Like, it just, they animated this, and they created a new episode from what exists, and they reanimated it, and it's just unbelievable with the voices and the music and the sound effects. It's just awesome. And some people from Filmation were in the audience. I know Robbie London was there. I was sitting behind Robbie London, and Cindy, his wife Cindy, who also worked at Filmation, she did something with animation cells. I can't remember what it was now. She worked at Filmation too, but they were watching it, and Robbie London the whole time was like shaking his head like this, like he was astounded by what he was seeing. So I hope, I don't know if James told you about that, Dusan, but I hope that brings you some joy, because everybody was blown away by that. But they had some really, they reanimated, the commercial bumpers with Orko. Remember the one they never used?
Oh, yes, yeah.
They have that. That's like the bumper they used.
Oh my
the one
God.
that never made it onto TV. Like, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe you guys did that. That's awesome. So that was really amazing. Yeah. So I won't spoil anything else. It's like, you've seen clips, bits and pieces. Yeah. You know what you're getting. So.
Oh God,
But,
that's
yeah,
just
that was
and
great.
no, it's so cool to know that staff information, especially Robbie London, was there to see that, and I hope because I've looked to see to try and figure out how to contact him because God, he's got aside from Larry DiTilio working at Filmation, he's someone I just would love to sit and talk to, and he's just kind of oblivious to contact. So I'm just glad that he is now aware.
I'll give him your email, and then if he wants to reach out, then he can.
Oh, that would be great because I just God, that guy's got so much stuff I would love to ask him about. I mean, just
he was like a major player in sort of establishing all the different characters and their personalities and all of that stuff for the cartoon. So he'd be worth talking to, and he's a really good conversationalist too. Like he'd tell you a lot of good stuff. Tom Tatternowitz was there too with his wife Deb, and Tom is great, really great guy.
He seems like a really cool guy to talk to.
Oh, big time! He's a super nice guy. Yeah, Axel was there. I told Axel you said hi, and he says hi and looks forward to seeing his good friend Tyler in person someday. Because he has not met you in person yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you did that. A friend of a listener to the podcast and a friend Mochi Matt video recorded Axel saying hey and everything. So it's just cool to because he's even asked me too oh, by the way, Joe, you can come back on now.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, totally. We love Joe. We love Joe Hagen.
Joe.
Joe.
Oh, okay.
Joe, come back.
I'm back. I was waiting for the thumbs up. I was like, man, you guys must be.
And she did say that Faker. They make two Fakers in this episode. One is Manny Faces Faker.
Faker fights Multibot and Roboto. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an orgasm to the eyes there, man.
Oh,
and then get this, Lizard Man comes in and breaks up the whole damn fight. I couldn't believe it.
It's true. And did I mention the meteor?
Oh yeah,
you guys are terrible.
Shows up.
That's wrong. You guys are terrible. And hello to T-Dog in the chat room. Thank you for joining us as well. So yeah, Grimbot, I was just reading the messages while you guys were talking, and I didn't know what Grimbot meant here. Maybe you do, Danielle. Said, Joe, ask her if she spotted the cameos. Is that something that's in the cartoon? Is that, I don't know, is that in the Return of Faker? Is that what he meant?
I did see one interesting one, two. Yes, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Who was it? Who was it?
There was an awesome verbal reference to a character in there that had me laughing my butt off when I heard it.
Who was it?
You're going to hate this. So it's like, Dusan, can I say this? It's going to spoil it. I don't know if you want me to spoil it right live on the podcast. I can tell you after. Unless Dusan gives me permission to spoil it on the podcast. James is going to. Okay. I don't want James to get mad at me.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I did catch some cameos. There are a couple. There was one neat visual cameo that shows up, and there was also a name drop cameo that was hilarious.
I was gonna say I don't know what you guys are talking about, but right now in the chat room, Grimbot said, "Yeah, go ahead." So I don't know what he meant, but go ahead.
All right. If James gets back,
thumbs up when you're done.
So there's one part where Orko is he's captured, right? So Skeletor is confronted or he's talking to Orko, and then Orko says, "Oh, I know you. You're Crackers the Clown."
Oh God!
He insults Skeletor. Like Orko is mad at Skeletor. Like they drew him he's taunting Skeletor, and he calls him Crackers the Clown, which got a big laugh in the audience.
Oh, I can imagine it did.
But they took the dialogue from that episode, and actually Roby Goran was there too in the audience who wrote that episode. Yeah, he was there. The guy who wrote, and actually that guy who wrote that episode has written for tons of TV. He's a comedy writer. He used to write for Laugh-In, Ronan Martin's Laugh-In and Hollywood Squares and all these shows, but he was more of a comedy writer, I guess. So when he wrote that episode, it was definitely more his style of writing, I guess. But he was there in the audience watching that too. And then there was another cameo where the evil warriors are all kind of gathered together and plotting behind Skeletor's back. and they're going to build their own their own layer for themselves. They're going to leave Snake Mountain and build their own layer, and then they show the image of it, like they have a paper and they show it, and it's the vintage Snake Mountain.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah.
That's cool. Man, this is a work of genius by these guys. God, it can't be released fast enough.
It's amazing, like the amount of work and James did like a presentation showing like the process. It's just the amount of work that went into doing this is astounding. Like it's gonna blow people away when they see it. Definitely. So that was really cool. And yeah, I mean the whole convention was just really fun. I hope you guys can go at some point, because I think, as I know you, as passionate as you are, I think you would really enjoy the convention, and everybody's going to recognize you guys from the show too. Everybody's going to just start coming up to you and talking to you right away. So
that's what I'd be worried about. Like if we go to the conception that we're going to go up, it's people like me, Joe, getting off the plane. It's like the Beatles getting off the plane or something like that.
Well,
or so. But I'd be curious to know if people would, recognize us.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Joe. Unless he's walking around with the Moduloc mask, Joe could go incognito, I guess, and people wouldn't know it was him. Is he still having the head set up? We should.
Oh, he was talking earlier.
Oh, you ready? Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Well, you guys
were saying that.
No, we were just talking. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're saying you guys should come to PowerCon, and I said everybody would recognize you guys because from the podcast, and probably people would just start coming up to you and talking to you. But I said, well, I don't know about Joe. If he has if you don't have the mask on, you could go incognito, and people won't know.
I can just wear sunglasses and a hat and walk around. They wouldn't even know. I could have been there this time, and
no, Joe's been there. Joe's been to every PowerCon, and nobody knew.
How sick would that be? Could you imagine that? Now talk about a lunatic. Could you imagine if I've been to every one and it's like, no, I've never been to one of those things before. Because I'm some weirdo. Everybody's like, man, who is that guy? What's going on there? And that's why I wear the mask. It's because they're like, oh, you're that shithead that's in PowerCon. So, yeah, might be a whole.
Go
ahead.
Sorry, Joe.
No, you go ahead.
No, did they do a panel for podcasting, Danielle, this year? Because Val had mentioned something about doing that.
Yeah, Val was going to do that, but I guess he decided to cancel it. We didn't wind up doing it. What we did instead, which was super fun, was Gunnar Sadowski from the Grayskull Con. He came over from Germany, and he translated one of the German audio plays into English, a script. He wrote a script for it. He just translated it. It was the one with Faker. It was called Doppelganger. He translated the entire thing into English, and then he cast it. He had messaged people over the last few months to cast them in the roles of the characters. So we did like a live audio play reading, and it was freaking awesome. Like he had the music queued up. He had sound effects.
Now, are we going to be able to see that on YouTube, I hope?
Yeah, I think that's going to go up on YouTube. It was just really fun. It was really fun to do that. I played Tila in it with the only character and the whole thing. I was like, I wish it was Evelyn, but sure, Tila's
Tyler's favorite character, Tila. Yeah.
You got Sandy Vagina playing another Sandy Vagina there, so I think it worked out just fine.
That's the biggest Sandy Vagina of all.
That's me.
Oh, Jesus. Well, real quick, Toki Deathhammer and Delva78, thank you for joining us in the chat room as well. So, yeah, we got a little live crowd here, Danielle. That's how it's been getting here on, usually Sundays, but, yeah, a lot of interaction with the fans. So I'm sure they'll have some questions for you later, too.
That's great. That's awesome.
Is it, what's the vendor situation like? Is it pretty much everyone's on classics, or is it, can I go there and find a Fright Fighter, for example?
Yeah, totally, you can. Yeah, they had, somebody had a boxed Eternia playset, like,
oh my God.
I mean, everything, every era of Masters of the Universe, the vendors have a whole bunch of different stuff. You can get, I know Daniel Benedict bought a Spider boxed in the box. He bought a boxed Spider. They had there's tons of vintage. They had the guys who worked on Fuerza T were there.
Oh, no kidding.
Really?
They came up from Mexico, and they have a new toy line that they're doing that's not. It's not Fuerza T, but it's very...
Is that the one that Axel's working on?
I think it is. Yeah, I think so. It's very similar to Masters of the Universe. Yeah.
The guy responsible for Fuerza T?
Yeah, it's like an
I had
older
no
man.
idea about that. Axel's told me about the line, but I had no idea that they were connected to that.
Yeah, they can't. They were there at PowerCon. Mad Hunter came up with his collection. He had all kinds of like crazy like bootleg stuff that he was selling. They had.
I was going to say, not to interrupt, but that Forza T real quick, I would have loved to know if anybody asked them questions like, remember they had their prototypes of Prince Goldar and Spector, like were some of the unreleased Forza T figures, and I always wondered, well, hey, why don't they just release them for the fans who wanted them, especially if now they're making another line. You think, hell, just pump out some other Forza T, but I doubt that question came up.
That's the first time I've ever heard anybody say they want a figure named Spector. That's amazing.
I know, because the thing is, I remember when Spectre was shown, they were like, some people were saying, should have got this Spectre, and then people are showing like this prototype before it's a team. Hey, God bless them, but no, Spectre and Sir Laserlot, oh, please, let's not go into that nightmare again.
No, we're not doing that tonight.
Yeah, Scott was there. Scott and I was actually on a panel. It was the second panel I've ever been on at Park. One was a Dark Horse panel a couple of years ago. I was on a BIOS panel with Scott, me, Eric Marshall, and Scott. I didn't get to say much during that panel, but let's just
why not
at that.
I was about that because someone had I think it was I forget who it was. One of our listeners contacted me and wanted to know what all you were responsible for, and I held back from saying you are currently working on the BIOS because I felt like you don't advertise it. Not that I'm saying that you would need to, but I don't know how well known it is, like who is actually working on the BIOS currently. So that's why I felt like I don't know if you want me to tell people right now that she's currently working on the BIOS.
They posted an interview with me and Eric when they revealed it a few months ago, so it's kind of out in the open now. I just don't screaming it from the rooftops. Every once in a while, I'll post about it. Like I was really happy with the new set of bios that came out, like the card and stuff, and the Rat Trap. And
you should be very, very all four of those. I mean, those were some of the best bios that I think have been put out for an entire like roster of characters. Like I don't remember a last batch because I know you guys are instructed to make sure it's tied into some of the stuff, but I felt like this batch, it really feels like it's, I guess you could say it's connected, but it doesn't feel like it's referencing a lot of the stuff that irritated me with the old bios. Like this all feels like good, fresh approaches in treating these characters in a manner that, you know what, if we don't know anything about them or we do know, it's just enhanced. You don't feel like anything. And I really loved, Joe, have you read the bios by chance?
No.
Of course you haven't.
Sorry. No, because it
ain't
a spoiler. Good God.
Okay. Yeah, I just said, haven't read, but I should. I would probably read them. If you guys
That's okay. You don't have to read them. Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate it. We're just trying to Eric and I divvy up the bios. Like we pick the characters that, it's like picking teams on a playground. Like, all right, you pick first. And then we pick the characters that we want to do, and then we write the bios for the card back ones, and then we started kind of writing, keeping like a journal almost of like things we want to hit on or things we want to like address that we weren't as big fans of, that we kind of want to try to like work around or new things.
What's an example? Give me an example of what you're just talking about right there.
Like for example, trying to think. Like I don't want to spoil anything that hasn't been revealed.
You go ahead.
But, like something like, for example, I don't like the idea that Orko killed all of the Snake Men. Like I don't think Orko would commit genocide. It's against his nature. He's an innocent character. Like he has magic powers, but he wouldn't commit mass murder. Like that seems like really out of character for Orko. So we've kind of worked something where we can kind of like explain that a little bit. Or another example is when we started doing the bios, like, and I'm not knocking Scott. Like he did a lot of work for years on that stuff, and I'm definitely not knocking him. But I'm just saying, when you get a new creative team that comes in on something, we're not like obligated to follow like to the letter every single thing. So like Scott had killed off a lot of characters that we love, right? Like Skeletor was dead, Sorceress, Man-at-Arms.
Skeletor was dead?
Yeah, Skeletor died in the classics. Yeah, Skeletor, Man-at-Arms, Sorceress, Zodak, Merman, the Snake Men, Hordak, King Hiss, Castle.
They fucking blew Eternia up or something. Are you kidding? See, this is the thing. I'm no kid, Danielle. I have missed out on 3 years of figures.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you the amount of bios I missed. So like the bios that now knowing you're doing, I guess the reason I haven't read them yet is I was like, do I have to know the insanity that happened for the past 3 years before that to know what is going on? Like, are you connecting all? See, the thing is, I wish if I had them all laid in front of me, sure I'd read them. But I was like, I'm 3 years behind, so I'm lost. And now with you saying this, I'm like, Jesus, everybody's dying.
Grayskull was gone. Castle Grayskull was gone. Is gone. It blew up. So
of course.
So Eric and I were like, okay, we can't let that be like this. Like, you know, we have the Ultimates coming in. At that time, we had the Ultimates, so we resurrected Skeletor, and then we were like, let's do a mass resurrection event. And I know it's ham-fisted, it's very like DC Comics.
But it has to be done. Like, you guys are doing it for the right reasons. You're not doing it for shock value and stuff like that, because you got no stories to tell if you kill off all the flagship characters.
People were complaining, but it's like, you know what, if you get a bone and it's popped out of place and you got to pop it back into place, it hurts at first, but then it feels a lot better after it's popped back into place. And that's kind of like how I was thinking of it too, you know. It's like but I don't want to, like, I don't want to like talk crap about what I didn't like about classics. Like, I did like a lot of the stuff that was there, and people might not like a lot of the stuff that we're doing, and that's fine. Like, everybody's entitled to their opinion, you know, but we're having fun doing it. It's definitely been
I mean, I would find it hard pressed for, you know, because you guys did the previous batch also with Fangor and
Eric wrote Fangor's bio.
Fangor, Lothar.
Yep. Hawk and Quake. Yep.
Which ones did you do?
I did Quake and I did Hawk.
Okay, yeah. I mean, all those, and I you know, because when I read this too at the time, I knew that you guys were expected to tie in all that stuff, and I hated that for you guys because there was only one thing out of the old bios that I thought was a cool idea, and that was making Jitsu Lord of Snake Mountain after Skeletor left. Just because, I will forever give Scott credit for that one. Mm-hmm. But with these, Joe, like, I really felt like these don't really feel like they're tied into any, like Karg especially is just focusing on that because it was so cool to make Karg like the torturous interrogator of Snake Mountain. I thought that was a tremendous idea. I mean,
so that's bios you said have no relevance to the old ones. You said I don't have to know those.
No,
well, not with Kargs, and because I mean it kind of references something that Gary Goddard had mentioned about the character anyway. Like this character has like these torturous, you know, knives and things, and Dango just went with that.
Nasty dental tools, you call it. And it's like, he does have them hanging off his belt. Like, what does he do with those? You know, so. Well,
heck, if there's links to them, like, you know, after the podcast, if there's links available as bios, please send them to me because I'll read them then.
Well, they're posted on Facebook. I mean, hell, I remember when they were all four when they were posted. I'm like, this is tremendous.
They're out there, so we're having fun with it, and then we're doing the Masters Mondays bios too, which is like a digital bio every other week. Because Mattel, you know, we got hired by Mattel in 2016 to take over writing the bios. So we wrote all the 2016 bios, but they didn't, because of the stuff with Super 7 and them dropping the line, Mattel decided to stop doing classics and move it to Super 7. They didn't use them until Roton and Skelcon, like at the very end of 2016, and they really truncated those bios too. They cut them way down. So with Masters Mondays, Mattel finally said we could release them online, like digitally, like every other week, the 2016 bios, and they approved them as official. We got paid for them, and had to put the trademarks and all that stuff on them. So we send those to them, like we sent 2016. So I was like, well, let me try to see if we can write bios for other things that didn't have bios before, like Screech. Like Screech never had. Like where did Screech come from? Like that might be an interesting thing to talk about and pull from different existing, because we always want to pull from what exists, and then if we need to tie it together with our own ideas, sometimes we do, but we try to like pull from vintage canons from all over the world. Like I want to like acknowledge all, because every country that had Masters of the Universe, obviously we had the most here in the US, but UK had stuff, and Germany and Italy, Brazil. It's like, oh, all these different comics and cartoons and books and things all deserve to be like, they deserve a nod too here and there. So every once in a while I'll throw a villain in from a German audio play or something like that. So I was like, oh, let's submit these to Mattel and see what they say. So we sent in like 9 bios for extra things like sidekick characters and artifacts and things, like, because you can use an artifact to anchor the history, like what happened during this time in history in Eternia and how did this artifact play a role in the events that took place during this time. So we sent that in, we split that in half, sent it in, Mattel approved it. Mattel was like, sure, awesome. They gave us
I like that.
Yeah, so they approved it. Thanks to Val. Like, Val actually is the one who got us the job. I should mention that. Like, he actually was the one who got the job through MV Creations, and then he subcontracted us to do the bios, and he lets us do our thing, you know.
Did you guys use any of the whole Evil Lynn / Screech thing? Was that used for the bio at all? Or
I worked a reference into that as well. Yeah.
Hopefully not the big robot bird, though, right? You didn't do that one, did you?
I didn't do the big robot bird, but I worked a reference into something to do with cybernetics. Yeah. I tried to, like, pull from some of the different Screech origins that were out there. Like, to synthesize something new from existing material, I guess, you know.
Yeah, because, like, even with Zoar, the amount of crazy different things for Zoar, the one that I got a kick out of was the one that, you know, the other day when I was telling you about that kid stuff, you know,
yes.
photo out. Yeah, with that one, how they talked about He-Man saying, by the power of Castle Grayskull, I have the power of Castle Grayskull. But I was like, okay, well, thanks for saying that twice. And but even beyond that, I like the description of Zoar. Zoar sounded like just a gigantic bird with 20-foot wingspan. I was like, well, holy Jesus. I was like, my God. I was like, now that is a giant Zoar I don't think I've ever heard described.
Something out of, like, Lord of the Rings, right? You know, like the giant bird.
Right. Coming to get Gandalf and fly away. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's cool, though. It is. It's funny, though, because you get all these different, like, canons that have all their own version of things, like the Kid Stuff records, you know, have those early ones were, like, really strange, like, really different, you know, like, interesting, because you could tell it was, like, early times, but going into the Prince Adam stuff. And then as it went along to the Kid Stuff tapes, then you get stuff like that, what, Attack Under Snake Mountain, or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Snake Men, or like Snake King hisses in Snake Mountain in the modern day Eternia, and it's like, wow, this is. And He-Man has a bedroom and
Castle Grayskull. Yeah. I love that. That's what that Prince Adam. There wasn't even an acknowledge of him, but He-Man, he's sleeping with his big old H on his bed. It's He-Man's bed. Castle Grayskull.
Awesome.
But yeah, I like. Yeah, the golden stuff and the kid stuff. What was so cool about that is the stuff that was, like, you know, that was in some of that early Filmation, you know, I mean, in the Filmation Bible stuff that didn't make it in the cartoon. A lot of that ended up in the books, you know, some of the weird things. Like you said, with the whole Queen Marlena, you know, with the rest of her cast and crew that were, you know, Biff Beastman and all of them, you know, that was in there. A lot of people didn't like it, but it was there. In the council, I think it's when they showed the Hall of Wisdom in that one Kid Stuff record book, and it was just cool to see it, you know. But of course, we never.
Cool, and some things are better left, like, as sort of a, like, oh, that was an interesting thing that they did, you know. But, you know, like the Biff Beastman thing, I was never a big fan of. I don't know about you guys. I was never.
Who the hell is? I mean, is there anybody that's a heart, like, carries a flag for TE Scope? Beastman. I mean, it just
don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a fan for everything. If we got a fan for Chef Allen here, Joe's a fan of Crackers. I'm a fan of Lizard Man.
Oh, the old Chef Allen dig there, huh?
You know, I'm just saying, and I'm not saying it as a jab, because I renounce my criticism of the character in regards to Danielle, and, like, hey, if I want Azrog and Spydra, I got to be willing to accept Chef Allen.
Okay, I will admit that. Like I said in the chat room, Chef Allen is not, like, in my top 10 most wanted.
You've been pushing that character since the I mean, like, the late days of Roast School. I listened to every episode, and she managed to get in as Chef, and I would pull my hair out and sitting in my car, like, please, for the love of God, no one listen to this woman. I do not want Chef Allen in this damn line.
You know why? It's because I sensed that you were doing that. So I was like, the more I say this, the more Tyler's going to do this and freak out. So I had to keep saying it. But I watch Chef Allen.
Swear to God, I get so frustrated with you.
He's not my type. You would get frustrated with me?
I did, because it was like, is she doing this as a joke? because I don't think anyone thinks this is a joke. I just like, oh my god, like it's gonna happen, and we're gonna get that. The line's gonna get canceled, and I won't get Lizard Man. Turns out it wasn't the case at all. But
you were worrying.
But yeah,
don't worry, it's all good. There's no need to worry. And when Chef Allen comes with the royal, Stuart Cameron drew amazing royal palace with the.
I saw that. Yeah.
I was like, that would be a good way to get Chef Allen. You get the Eternal's palace, and Chef Allen's the pack-in figure.
I immediately thought of you because you're the only person I think of anytime Chef Allen pops up. I'm thinking, well, I'm sure Danielle's pretty happy over that one. Because I don't hear anybody else unless Joe says it to piss me off or something like that.
I try to do that stuff. I do, but no, I mean, he actually would be a cool character. I remember making him for vintage and for classics, and the fans really liked him.
You put me in his bio.
Yeah, I did. I even put you in there. I was like, I gotta do that for the bio. So Joe's been writing bios for like 8 years
I taught Chef Allen magic in the bio.
Did you like it? It was actually cool.
It was penny.
I have to ask about this. Now, I mean, we all have our reasons for liking obscure characters. What is your reason for pushing for Chef Allen? Like, aside from the fact that he's an obscure character featured in 2 episodes, what is it that drew you to this? Like, I want a Chef Allen figure. Like, what is it about the character?
I think because he's like, he works at the palace, like he's part of the palace, kind of. So like, I don't like. Don't get me wrong. Like, Chef Allen is definitely not in my like top 10, maybe even not top 15. He's in my top 50 figures that I want. I do want Chef Allen. I want a lot of figures. But I think I don't know. He was just like a sort of like Malactha. Malactha was cooler because he actually did stuff. Like, he went out in the dark. But he's like part of that royal circle. Like, Chef Allen, like, works at the palace, so it would be cool to have like a scene with Chef Allen with like some of the characters next to him or something. But
in the mystery of the character, like I said, there could be something with him. That's why I made that mysterious bio. I was like, you know what? He kind of jazzed up the character a little bit. And by the way, you guys can use that bio if you want. Go ahead, you can take the bio for the character.
Here, you got Joe just gave me permission to use the Chef Allen bio.
And you know what? Sometimes, what's funny is I noticed that with some characters that people didn't like, when suddenly they appeared in a comic, and let's say this character never appeared in a comic, or they just gave them a cool edge or something to it, then people are like, damn it, I like the character. Sometimes it takes something different. But, quickly, let me say hello to Eric Amon, Tom Breisky, and Motu Fandom. Yeah.
Oh, hey, Tom.
Yes, there you go. So we got some more people in the chat room. But, no, it does. It jazzes the characters up.
Awesome, Chef. Did you see Tom's Chef Allen
I did. It looked great. Did he also do the cake? Because I remember sculpting the cake for my figure. You got to have the Orco cake with that.
Yes, he did a ton of cool characters. Like, all those characters, Tom, there's so many good ones. Like, I do want Chef Allen eventually, but I would love to get, like, Lady Slither. I'd love to get Slamurai. I'd love to get the Twiggets. I really want
to get the Meteorbs. Where the fuck are the Meteorbs?
I would love the Meteorbs. I would love like 2 5-packs of the Meteorbs, of 1 evil pack and 1 good pack of the Meteorbs. But I agree with you that they should be bigger. Like,
at least Cringer size. It makes sense. Like, nobody's gonna have room to have 8 of the beasts at a Battle Cat size, but it's Cringer size, and then of course the 2 that stand up like Cometoroid and Gorilla. They could be regular classic figures. Heck, you could even have like snap-on armor that could give that bulbous look to them. And the armor could be removable, and they could snap and look like a Meteor egg.
Oh, and you know what else they need to make? The rest of the New Adventures lineup.
Oh my God.
That's essential. Like, I can't believe we don't have that yet. Like, they need to make the rest of those New Adventures characters.
Now, with you being in the know a lot with this stuff, what outlets is Super 7 and Mattel listening to? Like, because I mean, we're on here talking all the time. We have no idea if anybody that's in a seat of power, so to speak, what kind of outlets are they looking at? Are they listening to just polls on He-Man.org? Are they listening to Facebook polls? What is it that with you kind of having a good idea of? I'd imagine you probably have a pretty good idea of what the powers that be listen to, where they get their ideas from, who they're listening to, like what outlets.
I would definitely say that they're looking at the polls that were done on He-Man.org that had the big giant polls, with way too many variants of like Bumblebee, bait buzz off and all that crap. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm so glad you verified that. I didn't do it purposely.
But I understand. But I understand. Somebody wanted that. Somebody voted for baby. Somebody wants.
One person, like, who the hell wanted that? It's like,
I don't know
but
why.
I guess people want. You're right.
Dropped it
Oh boy.
But I don't know. But those polls that they did on He-Man.org, I know for a fact they looked at that. Oh, you guys are breaking up.
Are we?
Oh, we are?
Oh, okay, you're back now.
Okay.
They're looking at the polls. They looked at those. They look at social media. They do, especially people like interacting with them on their Facebook page, things like that. They take note of that. At conventions, Brian and Josh talk to a lot of fans. Like every time I saw those guys, they were talking to fans constantly, and fans telling them what they like, what they want. The panels, like people go up and ask questions at the panels, express the kinds of things that they want. That's the kind of stuff that they pay attention to. But I guarantee that those polls that were done on He-Man.org that were just like kind of open to the public, they do look at those for sure. So vote when they have those polls. If you don't vote in them, vote in them, because that to express what you want, because they do look at that stuff. I've also heard people saying online that they think, I don't know where this idea came from, that Val Staples has an influence on Super 7's choices. Like he totally doesn't. Like we work on the packaging. Him and Axel do the artwork on the back and the package design and stuff, but he's not like telling them you need to move this figure here and this figure. I think the only time he did that, he did early on. He did suggest moving Dial-A-Mug from Club Grayskull into Collector's Choice, which I agreed with that request. And it's like they do what they want. Those guys, it's their company. They're gonna do that. They make the decisions there. Like if they ask for somebody's opinion, obviously they might they ask Val, what do you think of this? He might tell them what his opinion is, but they make their choices based on what they think the fans will want and also what they want to see too, because it's their company. So I know Val did suggest moving Dial-A-Mug over, and I think that was a good call. Like I would rather have Dial-A-Mug first in Collector's Choice than in Club Grayskull, personally.
Me too.
And he looks awesome. I don't know if you saw Planet Eternia, the German.
Yeah. Oh yeah. God, yeah.
It looks awesome.
Seeing the bulbs on his head.
Yeah, so good.
Oh my God. I was just stunned. Stunned looking at the pictures of all four characters. I can't wait till I get mine in hand. Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
That's the wave. I think I'm more excited about that wave of figures than I have been. I mean, I love all the figures we've gotten over the years, but I haven't been so excited for a wave in years, because all four characters are like all top 10 characters for me that I wanted. Like I've wanted the Mummy ever since I saw him in that Tomarts magazine.
Me too. Back in the late 90s.
I was like, why didn't they make that? That's a really cool idea, And then Granada is like the third rock person.
It was a no-brainer for her.
Yeah. And Card, of course, was like, that the figure that never was, the one that we should have gotten in the 80s. It's like we're finally getting a Card figure, so I'm really excited about that. He was my number one for a long time.
Well, that Jesus, that was a doozy. Thank you for all that information in the PowerCon, because now we'll move into our comic discussion. It's about the newspaper comic strip. It's the third part of the book, and it's the third story, and that's Ninjor Stalks by Night. So before we start, well, obviously you're the big part of definitely being behind that book and having it happen and all the research. But there's some stuff about Ninjor's story. You said that with some interesting tidbits you want to tell us before we discussed it?
Yeah. Well, I also want to say, since Dusan is in the chat room, Grimbot, he was very heavily involved in this as well. He did a lot of the restorations on the strip and worked really hard on restoring a lot of these comics. So he also worked on this. Well, I'll show you guys a few things. Like when we get towards the end, there's a few other things I want to show you, but I'll kind of. So when we were initially scanning a lot of these comic strips at Chris Webber and Karen Wilson's house. Chris Webber was the writer on most of the strip except for the first story, but Chris wrote all the rest of the story. He also worked at Filmation, he was a writer at Filmation. And so was his wife, Karen Wilson, who was the editor on the comic strip. And when we went through their materials, they were nice enough to let us photocopy all kinds of extra stuff. And they gave me some interesting stuff. So I pulled some of the stuff out of the box I have for this story. And Chris gave me 3 pictures. These were sent to them by Mattel as reference. This is, I think these are early, this Ninjor right here. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Yes.
The Ninjor there. So, there's a figure there, and then there's this one is really cool, Scare Glow, but he looks different. Look, he has a black halberd there.
Yes. Oh,
and the boots are black. It's just like the whole. He looks a bit different there. So just some interesting stuff. Blast Attack. Blast Attack to me looks pretty much the same. I don't think there's much difference with Blast Attack there.
Yeah, he's pretty damn close. Yeah.
That's so cool though to have that kind of production. Pictures of the characters like that.
Yeah, and then they had for all their, for every comic strip they did, there was like a script for it. So like each one of these has like a movie style script that goes along with it, where Chris wrote all the dialogue and the descriptions and everything. These are like long scripts, and that's how like people have asked how we got the summaries for the strips that were missing, and it was from the scripts that Chris wrote. So we were able to pull the dialogue right out of these scripts.
Oh, now that's cool. Okay.
Missing stuff, or for stuff that we could only find foreign language stuff from, like in India and stuff. Like we had the script, so we could pull the dialogue and then translate it into English for some of the ones where we didn't have the strips in English. A lot we did have in English, but some we didn't. And then these are interesting too. Like for every story that they would do like Chris would write like an outline for the story, right? So this was the Ninjor outline, and it's interesting because some of these outlines have different things in them that didn't wind up. Even the script sometimes has different things. Like this script, I'll read you after, has Gigantosaur in it. And Gigantosaur.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, I read it and I was like, man, they used Tyrannosaurus Rex in green.
Okay, I was curious if that was supposed to be the T-Rex that we all know.
I figured it was, because I was like, hey, T-Rex popped up in that, because you're right, even though he was green, I could see the characteristics of stuff on the side, I could see the things that matched the toy. I was like, I think that's supposed to be T-Rex, but they just didn't name drop him.
They did, but it was originally supposed to be Gigantosaur. And script, I'll read you the section in there. And then, I don't know, Mattel sent him some like pictures of Extendar, and then like descriptions from the style guide. Scareglow, character profile. Skeletor conjured up this spirit in his own image to frighten travelers on the pathways of Eternia. Scareglow is invisible during daylight, but glows with fierce, evil light at night. So they sent them like stuff. Oh, here's a Blast Attack concept drawing. It's a bad photocopy. Cool. It's a bad photocopy of it.
It still looks cool. That's still
it looks great.
Yeah, and then letters from Mattel and back and forth. Like I can read some of this later on. They're talking about a book. Actually, we printed a couple of these at the end of the newspaper strip book, where they're talking back in 1989 and about creating a newspaper strip book, but they can't find the original strips even back in the 80s. I'm like, you guys just published these and you can't find them. I guess they didn't know where they all were. So I'm like,
it happened instantly. It didn't take 30 years for it to happen. It happened overnight.
I know. It's like, geez, you think they hang on to that stuff. And then there's like, this is kind of chicken scratch, but Chris would kind of like plot out the storyline for the comic with this grid thing, because it would come out every day. So we'd have to have this like sort of these little boxes where he'd put like, I'm trying to see, Ninjor returns to hideout. That's one of the days. Ninjor returns to He-Man confronts Ninjor. He-Man fights Ninjor. I can't. It's hard to read all of these because you kind of Ninjor talks to Mystic Warlord. Oh yeah, that's the wizard guy that winds up being Hordak. Like it winds up being Hordak in disguise.
Ah, damn it!
What? I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
I'm sorry. I thought you didn't read this book yet.
I've been going bit by bit. I'm actually just trying to enjoy it just bit by bit. So that's okay. That's okay. Because I was excited. Like, oh my God,
I meant King Hiss. No, I
was like, there's a new character. Who's this wizard? I was all giddy. I can honestly say so far of the newspaper comic book, this story was my favorite so far, starting from the beginning and until now. There was just a lot of unique stuff in it. Oh, first, hello to Hemo Taugi in the chat room. Thank you for joining us. But no, I like this one. I like the things that Prince Adam was like, his struggle to have to, he cannot turn into Prince Adam. The stuff he's being watched at all times, learning how the kingdom is run and what his father goes through all the time. There was so many things in that I enjoyed. And then this new origin now, for in case you guys didn't know, obviously spoiler alert, but the Havoc staff origin, I was like, wait a second, this was somewhere. I mean, it was made. Well, obviously now we know it's Hordak, because I thought it was this magic wizard that did something. But of course, it's going to be Hordak. But that it was created. Ninjor had to get it back. It had a different name. But I was just eating this up. It was just, I like that personal struggle. First, not only being able not to turn into He-Man, but Adam finally seeing what his dad goes through all the time, of all these, royal duties, and what Adam will have to do one day. It was a different perspective, something we never really seen in depth, that I could picture, that in depth. But I'll pass to you, Dan.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's something I really like about the newspaper strip stories, is that they can really kind of explore stuff like that a little bit more than they could in the cartoon. I mean, they touched on things here and there in the cartoon, but with something that was being printed every day in the newspaper, they could have kind of really go into that sort of thing. And I thought that was cool too. Like, you see Adam is not, he doesn't really have a head. We know that he doesn't have a head for the royal paperwork and things like this. He doesn't, that's not his thing, but he's put in a position where he has to deal with that. And then, of course, there's the character that was created for the strip, Duke Tiburon, who's a pain in the ass. Like, he's always on Adam's case because he's the snooty kind of member of the royal court who is very into paperwork, and he's very fastidious, and everything has to be in order. But Adam is like the opposite. Adam doesn't care about that stuff, but he's trying his best because he wants to do a good job. And I thought that was cool too. I agree with that.
Like you said, it's like it's a blessing in disguise, him being trapped within there, not being able to get away from anybody to turn into He-Man. Along the way, right, he learns all the royal duties that he's going to take on someday. So I quite enjoy that. I love seeing that. Bam, I mean, they're putting in Blast Attack. We had Scareglow, we had Ninjor, and but of course for me, this is the Blast Attack that I've never really flipped over. The one that, oh shit, he's split in half. Now it's like this side's got you. And then the one with no head and, a leg and arms, like, oh, he's going to be hard to fight. I like the Blast Attack that's like that concussion bomb that comes in.
I agree with that. I prefer the Blast Attack that explodes versus the one that splits into two and fights as two warriors.
However, it's so silly, it's like, oh my god, we got 3 people to fight now. We got Scareglow and this half of Blast Attack and that one
around on one leg.
I just picture him hopping. It's just stupid. I see him hopping and one's hopping with no head. It's like, oh, it's so silly.
Although I will say another point for Blast Attack is an evil warrior depiction.
Ah, shut up! No, he's a snake man. A snake man, Danielle. Damn it, snake man. Oh, go ahead, Tyler. You get some in here.
No, I mean, for me, it's just the shining moment for this is seeing Ninjor depicted in such a very. I mean, what's so good about these stories is that they're all mature stories. They're not cotton candy bubblegum stories. They're all. I'm not saying like adult stories, but they're not written like they're talking down to kids who read these. I mean, you read them now. They come off as very serious stories, and to see Ninjor, not that Ninjor was ever depicted in anything less than a reputable manner, but to see him in charge, supposedly working for Skeletor, but has motives of his own, commanding Scareglow and Blast Attack, and being quite successful and being depicted as a very formidable opponent for He-Man. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you're always going to get my attention, and you're going to get an A+ from me if you're presenting these characters in a manner that, well, really that they all should be depicted as. And that's what I really love about these stories. I mean, the artwork is great too, but for Ninjor, you know, like so many characters that came along in the 80s, said, don't get a whole lot of screen time, so for lack of a better phrase. Like they're used sporadically in small bits of media, but just never enough to really feel like they could have shown fans that there's more to these characters. Oh, that's just the last wave of toys. So that's why I'm glad, you know, that Danielle and Val and Deuce and all the others that worked on this put this together to let fans know that, you know, if you're on the fence about that last wave of characters, which I'd have smacked the hell out of you for thinking otherwise, but there's great characters here. All of them are. I mean, because Clan Champs featured prominently in these stories, and just Ninjor alone in this. Like, I know Scaregow's got a big fan following, but I feel like Ninjor is still under the radar. I mean, am I alone in that thinking?
No, I think you're right. Scareglow has like a cult following, so like you see him turn up and things, but Ninjor never really got as well explored as he did in this story. Like they really, like, the whole story is devoted to Ninjor as the sort of the central villain of the story. So it's, you know, I agree with you. Like, you saw him in vintage stories, like the U.S. magazine, where him and Scareglow went to steal the jewel from Central Tower, and you know, UK comics and things like that. He does show up, but this really kind of delved into Ninjor as a character and what threat he is. And I love the scene where he's like, I've waited my whole life for this, and then he throws the star.
Yes, I love it. It's like something right out of a movie, you know. Just seeing him being successful at capturing Randor and Man at Arms and Extendar. You know, I mean, those are all heavy hitter characters, and to see him be so successful at his task, like they're constantly building him up. I love that Chris did that for the character. It's almost as if like he looked at that character and like, you know what, I'm just curious, like, did he decide to, of the three that he's given, does he decide to make Ninjor, or is he, and you probably have a better idea about this too, does he get to decide, you know, like using Ninjor is the more prominent villain of the story? Is that a directive he's given, or just he looked at these characters like, you know what, I'm going to make the ninja guy, I'm going to make him the villain of the story?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Chris. Because based on letters that I have several of the letters that he wrote back and forth to Mattel, and he would send them a premise for a story that he wanted to do, and it was usually it was just his idea, and he would send it to Mattel, and then they would approve it or not. There were occasionally they would make notes and things like that, but for the most part he was dealing with Mark DiCamillo from Mattel, and he wrote really glowing letters back like, this is the best story yet, I really enjoyed what you did with this and this. Like, they'll comment to each other on different things, and I think a lot of that was Chris deciding. Like, he took the style guide description for Ninjor, which says something, I think I have it here in this pile, where it says Ninjor kidnaps the evil warriors one by one, or something like that. From the style, here it is. Character profile. This awful assassin has come from another world to serve Skeletor. His mission is to eliminate He-Man's warriors one by one until He-Man no longer has any help in defending Eternia. Ninjor always moves with great speed, skill, and silence. So that comes directly from the 1987 Mattel Style Guide. So they sent Chris the Style Guide text. So he probably read that and said, okay, so Ninjor's mission is to eliminate He-Man's warriors by one. What can I do with that? And then I'm sure at that point he came up with his idea for the story based on that description, you know.
Which I like. I mean, I love that he did that. If he was to read the three of the, you know, the one for Scareglow, Blast Attack, and Ninjor, I'm sure Ninjor's a little more inviting. And you honestly could tell sometimes when somebody might be a fan of a particular style. Like, he was probably thinking, I don't know how much I could do with this glowing scare guy and this guy that splits in half, but the ninja, I think I could do a lot with him. And what you could tell, at least from my opinion of looking, he looks like he's a fan of ninjas and probably ninja movies. When he did that particular close-up, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, of Ninjor's face, that felt very, very movie-like. You know, when you see those movies and they zoomed in on a ninja, all the moves he was having him do, the fight with He-Man, to use it from nunchucks to the shurikens to the smokes, the magic, I think he's a Ninja fan. You could feel that from somebody.
I know he asked Gerald to put in a Conan Gerald Fortin, the artist, to put in a Conan reference somewhere on one of the. It's like a splash image. Like, oh, here it is. It's right here. It's like right on the first Sunday of the comic. Like, if you look.
Shit in the pond. Oh,
sorry. Right there. The direction in the script was to draw the scene in Conan where Conan is practicing with his sword, and he's like, he's standing there and he's like practicing with the sword. He wanted that kind of effect with He-Man. So, I mean, it doesn't really look like Conan, but there's a little bit of that.
Okay, so that's paying homage to, like, when Conan's brought back to life and is practicing with sword on the beach.
Yeah. And I have it. I have the script here. I could probably read it to you what he said. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday.
God, you can listen to this breakdown she's got here. I mean, this is just mind blowing.
It says we haven't seen. There's a script. Chris, when he would write the scripts, he would sometimes put notes to Gerald Fortin, the illustrator, in the script. So he says we haven't seen He-Man so far in this story, so let's use the title panel approach with the title and some action pose of He-Man on a neutral background. Perhaps He-Man posing with his sword in a martial arts stance, a la the Conan publicity pictures. That must be what he's talking. Conan publicity pictures. I don't know specifically which ones he's referring to, but I'm sure Gerald probably had some idea, of a Conan pose and did that way. And then the thing with, let's see. Oh, here it is. Okay, I have it. Oh, I use this as a play saver, but it's like drawings of Whiplash. Cool. Filmation style Whiplash drawings. Because all these people worked at Filmation. Everybody who worked on this newspaper strip. In fact, this initially was a collaboration between Mattel and Filmation.
I was telling Joe, like, when we first discussed the book, like, this book is just filled with Filmation references. Like, the characters are drawn and everything. It's just the collector being featured in these stories prominently too.
Yes, that was
I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, right. It was so cool to see the collector in there. They all. I mean, everybody, the colorist Connie Schur, the writers Jim Shull, and then Chris Webber, who wrote the rest of it. Karen Wilson, Gerald Fortin. They all worked at Filmation. So when this strip came about between Mattel and Filmation, they used Filmation people to do it. And initially, as you know, Larry Houston showed those images, those strips. That was Lee Nordling, who was the editor of the mini comics.
Yes.
He wanted to do a strip, so he got Larry Houston and Christy Marks, who wrote several of the mini comics, to do the strip. And they pitched it to Mattel, and it looks awesome, but Mattel was like, it would be, I guess, what they were asking cost-wise to produce such a strip. Mattel wasn't willing to pay that. It was too expensive. So they wound up not doing that strip, and they went with this one instead. But there's that week of samples that they just, as to pitch it to Mattel. So that's why Lee Nordling wrote that article in here, the pitch strips, because that's kind of like the strip we might have had if Mattel had approved it. But it was too expensive. So, but yeah, here's the Gigantosaur thing if you guys want to hear it.
Oh yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah, it says closer angle on portal. So this is when Ninjor opens the portal so that the T-Rex comes through. It says, a monstrous Gigantosaur steps through the portal. This is the bionic dinosaur from the Grayskull line, the half dinosaur, half mechanical beast from Preternia. This is the really big one, which can transport characters within it. Check Mattel's models for scale.
Oh my God.
It's normally a heroic dinosaur, but we'll assume it's enchanted for evil for the purposes of this story.
Yeah, great. Yeah. I'm glad they put T-Rex in. It would have been great to see Giganosaur, but I guess T-Rex didn't.
Now that we didn't see Giganosaur, I was like, oh, we almost had Giganosaur.
It just sucks. I mean, God, that not only because we got teased with that toy that was, well, yes, gigantic, but also to think about the Errol McCarthy, art that was used on some of those pajamas. He actually made it onto some pajamas. It's like, damn it, he did exist in certain parts. We got to see some things, but what could have been?
Almost. He was almost there. And Hero almost showed up too. And one of they didn't know what Hero was in that King Hiss story. There's like a reference to He-Man's looking into the mirrors of the mirrors history or something, and he says a great hero battled Sarkadon or something, and it was meant to be Hero, but they weren't sure what Hero was going to look like yet. And so Chris Webber told Gerald Fortin to illustrate it hidden, like, so that's why you don't see what that image is. It's meant to be Hero.
Wait, which image is that supposed to be? Because I'm looking at that right now. I'm looking at that story because I have to see what you're talking about.
It's Vengeance of the Viper King. So it's the
I'm looking in here.
And let's see here. It's in Castle Grayskull, and He-Man is talking to the sorceress. Let me find it.
This is a big book, people. It's a big book.
It is a big book. It's like everybody's saying.
They're gonna find. They're like, wait, it's quiet. Yeah, she's gonna find it. That's just, you can imagine the amount. Well, if nobody owns it, Jesus owned this thing. It is one big whopping book.
Sarkadon comes to life. Where the heck is it? Dusan, what page is it on?
That's what they're looking at. Motagi said, "Are we looking at the newspaper comic strips book?" Yes, that's what they're looking at. And hey, I didn't know if I said hello to where was he back?
You're gonna lose your viewers here.
Okay, and J.D. Gibson. Yes, thank you for joining us too.
Here we go. Okay. History, Sarkadon, tracing for Sarkadon according to legend.
Rimbot said the page with the vision of Castle Grayskull destroyed or something.
Page 42.
She'll get it. They're fine. Yes, everybody say, yeah, that is the newspaper book, definitely.
Yeah.
This is just like a big infomercial for the book.
I know.
That's essentially what we're doing right now.
Reading the book is
If you don't have it by now, this ought to tell you right now. Look at all the stuff we're talking about that's in this book, or what's supposed to be in this book.
Damn it! I know it's in here.
I'm still trying to remember when I just read the Ninjor one, who made the reference of Turbodactyl? Who mentioned that name? Was it Ninjor? Who said Turbodactyl in this Ninjor story?
Right. Yeah. It is referenced in there.
Because I was like, when I was reading it at first, I was, why the hell would they make reference to Turbodactyl when it's in the past? But if it was Ninjor who made the comment, I'm like, oh, it makes sense, because Ninjor obviously knows, since he's bringing this stuff from the past, when he brought in, Tyrannosaurus Rex. Another cool feature to see what Ninjor did.
It's page 42 at the bottom, and you can't see him. It's just like this weird, like, little mist in the corner, and it says, they're telling the story of Sarkadon, and it says,
okay, only a fearless hero could defeat and imprison the great snake Sarkadon. Okay, that's
and Adam says, why does that sound familiar? So then if you flip to the back, like I put in script excerpts in the back of the book. Let's see, where is it? It's like in the extra stuff in the back of the book, bonus content, script and story premise excerpts, page 512. Here it is. All right, so in the section that says script and story premise excerpts, if you look at the first excerpt that I have there, it says, watching the figure of a heroic warrior battle the great snake. Note, Gerald, since this is supposed to be Hero, and we don't know what he looks like for sure, how about we show this scene in silhouette against the sunset or such? Which Gerald didn't even do that. He just had that like the weird little mist thing. And that's the section right there. And then it says, sorceress, only a fearless hero could defeat the great snake Sarkadon. So it was supposed to be Hero. So almost, again, and I was like, we almost had Giganosaur and we almost had Hero in here too. So close.
It's nothing but blue balls. This whole story.
It's heartbreaking, but it's cool to know that there was kind of like there, that it was talked about, and they wanted
to adds to the lore of that wave of figures that we never got. I mean, there's just all this mythic proportions of Hero and Slammer and the dinosaurs that we never got in the Gyro Attacker. I mean, it just breaks the heart of what we could have gotten. But it's so cool that they were still looking to incorporate a lot of that into these stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, God. Yeah, it's definitely it's cool that they were looking to do it. It's just heartbreaking that it didn't happen.
And like you said, there was only very few of these strips that were missing from this book, correct? There was just maybe a handful of pages.
Oh, no, we were missing out of 1,607. I can't remember these. It was like 1,600 strips. We were missing 35 of them. 35 strips. So mostly from the New Adventures story at the end. But since then, we have recovered 21 of them. We found 21 of them, missing 35. So we're still missing, I guess we're still missing 14 of them.
Wow.
I mean, like I said, the hours that you put into trying to, like you said, going through all the microfiche at all these libraries and everywhere else, I mean, that must have just been so painstaking. Also to reach out to the fan community and hopefully find people that had these strips that almost nobody's ever heard of or seen, you know. And if they did, they've only seen a couple of the stories, like me. But that had to be just, God, so like I said, difficult to do. I don't know how many hours you spent, but that must have been forever.
Endless. It was like, you know, I'd go to Boston, up to the library, you know, order microfilm from Interlibrary Loan, and then just go. First we wanted to get like what we could from the hard copies, so we scanned whatever Chris and Karen had, but they only had like a third, because as you know, the strip ran in the U.S. where it originated and was syndicated all over the world. But then as far as I know, most of the newspapers, if not all the newspapers in the U.S., dropped the strip up after a couple of years, and then it just continued on in other places. So we got those scans, and then we knew Brazil, the newspaper in Brazil ran a ton of the strip, most of it in Brazil. So fortunately, my parents are Portuguese. They're from Portugal, so I speak Portuguese. So I was able to kind of communicate with the newspaper in Brazil, called O Globo, and I emailed them quite a bit, and that was difficult to get them, because it was like, hey, can we get scans of comic strips of He-Man from 35 years ago? It's like, what? And Portuguese too, and trying to explain it to them. And especially Brazilian Portuguese, the dialect is different from Azor. My parents are from the Azores, so the dialect is different. So it's a little, I have to kind of fine tune my ear to it. But did you do the translation? Was it you that did the translating then of those for the Brazilian, for the Portuguese stuff, I did, but I just used the script. Like I had the script, so I wanted to, whenever I had the script, I used whatever was from that, So what they did is they used an OCR program, which is Val had people lettering, because we had a whole team doing that. They would take the script text, right, and then copy it and paste it into the word balloon, right, and then Val had a guy design, Chank, I forgot his guy, it's in the credits there. He designed a font that looked exactly like the one that Gerald Fortin created, because Gerald used to hand letter the strip, and Gerald is French. He's from France. Like English is not his first language, so that must have been challenging. I'm sure he had to write every word balloon in addition to illustrating the comic. So Val had this comic book letter, Works in Comics, recreate the font from scratch so that we could use the font, Gerald Fortin's font, for the translated stuff, so that it looks the same as Gerald Fortin's.
So it wasn't a simple Comic Sans or Sans or whatever they call it.
No. It was like what we wanted to recreate as close as we could, to what Gerald did, so that he could do that. And then we went to the Library of Congress, and we met with Eric Marshall, and Eric helped us a lot too. So me, Val, and Eric went down to Washington, D.C., and we went to the Library of Congress, and we just pulled tons of microfilm and scanned everything we found. And then right at the last minute, literally maybe it was a week or two before the deadline, where we had to have everything into Dark Horse, we got, I was going through all this box of papers that Chris had given me, and I was reading all the letters. I was like, I'm going to see if I can find something. And there was a reference to a newspaper from Los Angeles. It was a Spanish language newspaper in Los Angeles. What the heck was it called? La Opinion or something like that. And he made a reference to, he's like, oh, I'm glad to see La Opinion in Los Angeles. So it was a U.S. paper that was running the strip, but it was in Spanish. So I was like, huh. So I was called Val, and I was like, hey, this letter says that this newspaper was running, and the letter is dated like 1991, which is like stuff that we need from like the New Adventures. And so we looked into it. We looked it up in this like online archive. And lo and behold, there were like a ton of strips there that we were missing, like Sunday strips that we were missing tons of. So we were like, oh my God. So Eric, we were like, Eric, can you go back to the, luckily Eric lives in like Maryland. So we're like, Eric, can you go back to the Library of Congress and scan all of these?
Wow.
They had it. I emailed Library of Congress. I was like, you guys have this? And they did. So Eric went back down. He scanned a whole bunch of them, and we like were able to like get a ton of stuff that because we would have been missing a lot more if we hadn't found that. We would have been missing maybe like 60 something strips. So Eric, we wound up finding like more than half, I think, of what we were missing at that, just in one shot from that news. So you never know where they're going to turn up. It's just like,
guess not.
Some guy emailed us recently from India that there was a magazine we didn't know about that had the strips in it. So he's hooked us up with some stuff.
That's just unbelievable. And fans are appreciative. Like one of the fans, Chris Owens in the chat room said, big thanks to Danielle for all the Dark Horse books you worked on. So there you had somebody in the chat room wanted to say.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And Kevin Sharp is here too. So thank you.
Hey,
all right.
How you doing?
Hey, Kevin. Absolutely. Yeah.
Great artist. I love looking at his artwork.
Yeah, he does great work.
God,
yeah, Tyler definitely promotes. I mean, Tyler has some of his art. And you do have some of his art, correct, Tyler?
I got some over here. I got some in my bedroom. I've got some right here. You know, I'm trying to build up a wall of Sharp like I got a wall of Axel. So I've got Kevin's done a variety of stuff for me, not T-Man Thundercats, but he's done like G.I. Joe stuff, Final Fight, Marvel stuff for me. So
nice.
He does everything. Yeah.
Awesome.
I was gonna say, like, Daniel, it almost sounds like you're describing like an adventure of Indiana Jones, like you're going to, like the catacombs of the Library of Congress, and you're finding all these hidden stuff. Like that's what it sounds like. You got your fedora and your bullwhip.
That's the first line of the forward that I wrote for the thing. It was like I put that in there, Indiana Jones, because it was like that. It was like we're looking all over the world to try to find this. We had a guy scanning stuff for us. It was crazy.
I picture like you and Val are like in the plane. He's like your Marcus Brody and you're Indiana. And you guys are just flying all over the world, running into like, you know, instead of Nazis, you have scalpers and stuff like that. Douchebags trying to grab the stuff and sell it on the internet.
Yeah.
Like
or fans that don't want to share their collections. Like we found there were a couple of fans that actually had stuff that we needed. Nothing that's missing from the book currently, but at the time when we were searching for stuff, like early on, they didn't. One of them said they would share that they'd scan their stuff for us, and then disappeared, dropped off the face of the earth. And then another guy, he had a ton of strips, and he was like, "I don't believe in reprints of." I was sort of like, everybody wants to see these. Like nobody's. This is like an entire vintage canon that lasted 4.5 years that most people have never seen. And it drives
it dumbfounds me
for everybody.
Yeah, that's
what a Belloc.
I never get it. I don't understand that. I mean, I can understand that. Okay, maybe you physically would never want to send something to somebody. You'd work on it, but I mean, just to scan, it's like share with the world. Like you know me, anytime I find something goofy or a weird piece of art, thinking, "Hey, I wonder if anybody's seen this." I scan that some bitch, and then I send it right there on Facebook. Let me see. It's like, why wouldn't you want to share it? Let the whole world see.
I just want to be on there like. Granomir treasure hoard, and they want to sit on their treasure and not share it with everybody. Unfortunately,
yeah, I don't get it. I mean, it's like my pleasure. I love sharing Zuba Rex with you, Danielle, and the whole world. We want Zuba Rex. Hashtag that.
Hashtag we want Zuba Rex.
There you go, my God.
If she's just humoring you, there's no way in hell she could be that enthusiastic about this obscure. Clunky looking chubby dinosaur that you found in a board game.
Quit being the party pooper. Everybody loves Zuba Rex.
I'm just saying, you know, Chef Allen's one thing. You're Zuba Rex. Like, come on.
People, they love Zilverex. Damn it, I'm getting a cult following for that sucker.
The hell you are.
Yeah.
Might see
Until
show up somewhere. That's all I'm saying.
See, Zilverex might pop up. Karsten was cool enough to put that in his one book he did. He put Zilverex in there, so we finally had him in some kind of canon. And then
therefore the people.
Maybe Azrog will too. I don't know. Azrog and Spider, you never know. They might show up somewhere too. Who knows?
See? Danielle's got some things planned. She's got some things planned. We gotta love her for that, Tyler. Gotta support her.
What about what I love? You know, you got enough. All right.
I got enough. What the hell I get? What
you got enough.
What I get? Tell me what I got.
You get your precious Sky Highs and your naming this and doing that.
Right. I did name Sky High.
Yeah, all right. I haven't been able to make my full-on contribution to Master of the Universe yet, and you're trying to hog everything like these people that Danielle's talking about here. You ain't about caring.
He was also were you the voice of Sky High in those cartoons?
Yes, I was the voice of Sky High as well. Okay, all right. I guess I had a little
that one that we did where it was like we did
with Evil Lynn and Skeletor and the head whipping back. Yeah, no.
One with like the sorceress goes insane or something.
There was a couple that you and I voiced. I know Karsten got, like you said, really extremely busy, and it'd still be cool someday to see those because he does great work. Besides, obviously drawing in any art style you could do, to put an animation short, together that quickly, like when you do, it's like it's amazing. Being a one-man, team like that, it's got to be hard.
My favorite one was the one where was the sub drive, like, and the sub hits like the mark, and then it's like you hear the He-Man music come on, and meters going up and up and up.
Yeah, we had fun doing that one. That was a lot. I mean, almost everything that said was just Bam, just trying to improv, especially when I was rambling. Everything was like an improv thing, and I tried to do my best. I have the power voice for He-Man when I did that, and then he added the echoing voice, but I even voiced He-Man, so there you go. I guess I did a couple things. I was like, screw you, Joe.
All right, Tyler, besides Azrog and Spider, who else are you, like, looking forward to, like, that you'd like to see?
Those two especially. Malactha is definitely another one I like to see. Negator.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to see the Game Master and his three henchmen, Humanoid, Insect Man, and Bear Man. God, I'd love to see them.
Negator's got to have his nerves, too. You got to have
the nerves have got to be with him.
Yeah.
I want Prince Dacon.
Oh,
I think Prince Dacon is an absolute badass to have. And Garn, both
Garn.
The black version and the Native American version.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd say those would probably be like my more prominent heavy hitters because, in terms of like filmation characters and things like that. Those are, because Shigoti Mask were such a big deal to me. I've got them. And I think many comic-wise, Garn and Dacon.
And Army Build the Kobolds, those would be awesome little suckers, too, the Kobolds.
Yeah, those would be cool, too. I've never been a big fan of the whole massive power monsters. Like, they look cool, but I just have never gravitated towards that demand that there are for those characters. Not that I'm saying I wouldn't welcome them, but...
Yeah, they do have a big following, but it's like they're just these little goblin guys that turn into these big monsters or orcs or whatever they are,
Yeah, and I'm sure they look great, in classics form, but... But yeah, I think that's pretty much like, and I'm all about. I welcome kind of whatever they want to throw. It's like I'd still like to see more of the concept characters.
Oh yeah,
I think there's a whole bunch. There was a character in the Power Honor Foundation book. It was a snow goat.
Yes,
I just thought,
yeah.
There was just something about a snow-based heroic character that of a mountain goat that was like kind of a snow-based character. I just thought that's a really cool looking idea.
Yeah. I that was one that also stuck out to me. Like I really like that snowman character with the skis, and they I guess one of the characters Scott named in the mini comic that's like a blurb in the background is the Snow Thief, and I guess Axel had hinted that was the design he would use for that character. So hopefully Axel will release, he's been releasing those designs, the figure designs. I hope he releases that one because I think that would be a really cool figure to have.
Everything that Axel has done, I'm like all the renditions he's done, and plus all those creative characters from the 80s, and I'm still hoping, and of course the new Adventures characters need to be finished out as well. But I still want to see like Rajar, Three Beast, and those created. Yeah, I thought those were just stunning characters. Like, I want to see those get made. I want to see Brainwave, I-Beam, Compactor, and Netta released as well. Like, I just think those are some amazing looking
And
designs.
Hans Hammerholder with that Ram Man buck. He could be a the beefy sucker. That would be kind of cool too. Yeah, there's a lot of damn cool things.
Man Crystal. I mean, all that stuff. I just think, you know, that's just, and all those other snake characters that Axel put together, like a Vipor, and all that. God, there's just an endless list of characters, and that's why I hate it when fans say, there's nobody left that I'm interested in, or there's nobody cool left to do. I'm like, God, you guys.
Like I posted on Joe's wall that Minox or Minox, the Minotaur guy. Like,
yes.
Like he's so obscure, but it's like I've always wanted a Minotaur character too, like for Masters, and it's like there's an official one from the Italian comics that was created by Skeletor to fight He-Man. I'm like, and he looks. Tom Breisky drew a really cool version of him that I posted on your wall. It's like, he'd be pretty easy to make too. Like it's just like the standard buck, you know, and then they do a Minotaur.
So many. You're right. I mean, that's the thing. There's so many characters that can be made. Like you said, when some say that there's not enough, I mean, you look between Filmation, the mini comics, and all the other literature that's out there. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of characters. I mean, literally. And the thing is, you second guess always thinking, will this character look good? Would I really want him? But the second it's in your collection, it's like, you know what, damn it, it makes your collection just stand out even more. Instead of having tons of variants of the character, or this version in Filmation form and Classics form and this form. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but sometimes you like sometimes you like having your eyes be really shocked to look at a beautiful display of multiple different colors, sizes. You know, I know that we're not going to get too many different sizes. Basically, everybody will probably have the same height of being the 6.5 inch, unless you're counting for some giants. But I mean, Plundor, as much as Plundor got made fun of, Plundor was a cool ass looking figure. When people got him in hand, they're like, you know what? That is actually a cool ass figure. And then you think of like other factions in Filmation. I mean, I would love to see Sticky Fingers and his crew, all those pirates, the space pirates. I think every one of them, but those are different sizes, so I know some wouldn't be in there, but I know they'll probably never be made. I know we'll probably never get Kothos. I know we'll probably never get Cambro, but they're all characters that would look fantastic, especially with having, you know, like I said, any of them. Now, I know Cambro would have to be a big boy, but I doubt they would go the giant of the tightest size that they used. But he would need a couple more inches if they were to do somebody like him. But it's like I said, it's I guess a dream, you know, to think if it could happen. But
it would never run out of characters. Like, there's
they
just wouldn't run out. Like, there's so many characters out there. So I'd love to get those characters, Cambro, and I would love Kothos. Like, he'd be so cool to have. And it would vary the look. Like you said, everybody's like that buff look, but if you mix it up, that's like, I think I always say I want the Twiggets, but they would look cool because they'd have the little Twiggets in the display with the rebellion, and you have a lot of pinks and blues in there and purples. It's nice throwing some green too.
It does. I mean, it adds to like your collection of beyond the heights, beyond the colors, but even so many different styles. Because, you know, if you'd wanted to be honest, you could take, like, let's say they made somebody with, like, you know, a bigger belly or something, which could cover Kothos, Sticky Fingers, Chef Allen, and for the sake of fun for holidays, if you made Prince Adam as Santa Claus, as I did, you could actually get that with at least a multitude of characters. So
Totally. And then for the vintage line, like, the possibilities are endless there, too. Like, I was talking to Josh from Super 7 at PowerCon, and I was like, oh, you know, it would be great to see, like, you know, characters like that people always wanted that they never got, like Queen Marlena and Strong Arm and Ice.
Yes.
Like, I want that more than I want, like, as much as I love Filmation, it's like, well, there's already a vintage Beastman. I don't really want a Filmation.
I'm glad I said the exact same thing last week, because I was disappointed that it's just more variants right now. We're not getting a nice punch to help sell
and I don't want to feel like
vintage style line.
I don't want to feel like I have to recollect that again, meaning, okay, now that we're getting the 5.5 inch style, does that mean, okay, now let's release every character we had of Skeletor and Evelyn and all them? Let's do them all in Filmation. It's like, no, I don't want to have them all again, but now in Filmation style. Give us characters that we've never had. Like you said, the characters, like, you could have Icer, you could have, hell, you could even have Plundor, but you could have all these characters that never made it. And even Strobo. Strobo would be awesome to have a vintage Strobo.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Goatman, all of those, like, would be cool.
Hell yes.
I'd lose my mind. I would lose my mind if we got that. But it's like, I'm getting burned out on, in a way, some of the characters being reused over and over, and it's like I don't want all the Filmation characters that we've had before in other figure form.
Yeah.
Now just Filmationized. Like some are cool, but not every one of them.
I was cool, like, yeah, getting He-Man and Skeletor, and even Man-at-Arms was like, oh, Man-at-Arms with a mustache, cool. But then beyond that, I was kind of like, do we need all of them? And like, well, She-Ra, obviously, the thing with She-Ra is, like, that's the She-Ra I wanted when in the 80s. Like, I was disappointed with the She-Ra figure that we came out with, because I saw, I saw Secret of the Sword in the theater, right? And I was like, I loved it. You know, I went with my sister Maggie, we saw Secret of the Sword, and I was waiting for that She-Ra figure, but I thought it was going to look like the one Super 7 just made. And then, like, that one came out, and I was like, that doesn't even look like the one in the, doesn't look like the rest of the figures, and it doesn't look like the movie version that I just watched. Like, come on, like, you know, this.
And the Filmation one I want, that I've told Tyler so many times, the only real Filmation one I want is Ram Man, whether it's in classics form or vintage form. To see that Ram Man, that is different. But yeah, you're right. Some of the others, like
the She-Ra figures, now they've grown up. Like, I love them now. Like, they've grown up. Back then, I was like, I wanted it to look like the one I saw in the movie. So I love that they made that She-Ra in that vintage style on the red card back and everything. It's like cool.
Yeah.
Plus, that also solidifies the idea. It's like, this is all one universe. Like,
sure,
you know, it's all part of one thing. I mean, it would be interesting to see what else they do. I just hope they go beyond just Filmation versions. It's like,
and that's what worried me about what Mattel had presented when they showed, like, just that case of He-Man variants.
mm-hmm.
It just kind of made me feel like, I hope that's not all they really are interested in doing.
Yeah.
It's like, how many times can we get away with reusing a He-Man buck again and again and again? I'd like to think that if they really want to do something to celebrate He-Man, that they're going to give us something that we have never received before, or give us something we have, and treating it and paying homage to the line, and not just doing the whole, you know, like Barbie, just reusing the same figure over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Did that draw interest? Was there any buzz about that case of variants of He-Man stuff?
Honestly, like, I don't. I think the slime pit one people were talking about, because nobody, that was new. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think people were buzzing about, like, the giant versions of the repaints of Anti-He-Man and Faker and stuff. They're cool. Like, I love those characters, but it's like, I didn't hear anybody like, oh my God, did you see that in the case? Like, I didn't.
For me, in the forums of all the ones I went to, because all the vintage groups on Facebook, they are most excited about Slime Pit, but they also were excited about just regular He-Man because of the actual head now looking like the vintage one, you know, the better face, not that goofy looking one that Maddie had that everybody said, what the hell happened to He-Man's head? So people are happy with that, but nobody really flipped. Some thought Prince Adam was kind of cool, some maybe Anti-Attorney and Faker, but that Wonder Bread concept with the black armor, almost nobody talked about that. They're like, eh.
Honestly, the Mattel thing people were talking the most about was Thundercats. Like, everyone was talking about Thundercats because people want that, you know. It's like, I don't know how well Mattel would do with, like, the masks and things like this. Like, they're cool and they're really creative, and I think Brandon is really talented, but I just don't see that people getting, like, super excited for that, unfortunately. You know,
Thundercats are a no-brainer, though. I mean, that's
but that's what worries me, is that they said they want to know people's thoughts. Of, like, I would have thought just the disappointment that Super 7 wasn't going to carry over Classics Thundercats would have been enough, but then to hear the Thundercats roar reaction was just
the dolls got to react. The people, like, were interested in the dolls. You know, the tall. You know how they did the She-Ra doll? They did, like, they had, like, a whole line, and they had He-Man even too.
He didn't get a good response.
I'm sorry.
No, but people were talking about it.
Yeah.
I did.
The She-Ra dolls, all the females look great. You're right. Those females, every one of those dolls looked amazing.
I like Evil Lynn. That was the one people were talking about. I was talking to Ricky Campbell, Ricky Lyle Campbell. He's a huge Evil Lynn fan. He was, like, really excited. And I thought the Evil Lynn was the best one of the bunch. There.
She looked damn cool. She did. Sorceress something it's strange, I guess, to get to do a cloth, because, you know, something looks weird around her chest. Something just looks.
Again, I hate to say it, but I don't think that the line would sell either. just because based on the She-Ra, the She-Ra figure, like, I mean, it's awesome. I have it, but I waited until it was like Matty Collector.
Yeah, that price was too much as an exclusive. If they kept them around a $25, $30 price tag and did retail, I could see them possibly selling pretty well. But no, that 75 when they did San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, people were like, Jesus, and they held back. And like you said, there was thousands of excess for that Matty Collector set.
Yeah, and it's a great toy. I mean, it looks, I mean, the packaging is phenomenal, but it was too expensive. I mean, the price would, if they released those, the price would have to be way more reasonable, I think, for people to jump in. And then it's like, oh, and Snake Mountain was a big, that wasn't Mattel, it was Super. Everybody was like drooling. It's amazing. I mean, it needs to be seen to be believed. That's just, the thing is just.
It looks epic, and especially all the stuff and the accessories that are going to be a part of that. I mean, it looks amazing. Of course, yes.
You see the tentacles coming out from the stick?
Yeah, that's what I loved. It's like, wow, the stick came alive. It's like that. So, and sure, the set will probably be expensive, but I'm sure they'll have some kind of payment plan, and I'm sure they'll have more information about that coming up soon. But yeah, it does look amazing. But as for the Thundercats, I think that is a guaranteed seller. People were so disappointed the line stopped. I'm sure fans would go nuts for it. I don't even think there needs to be a hashtag, we want Thundercats. I mean, Jesus, I guarantee you release those suckers, and I don't know if they would just do it online again or if they did retail. People they'd buy them up. People want those Thundercats. They've been wanting the rest of them. So I think those are no-brainers. So I could see the excitement. I can understand it. I mean, the community, especially Thundercats community, they've been really going crazy, as are the Masters fans, because, well, they're using the same buck, so they feel like, they can go together. Even though I've always liked different heights and styles, but whatever.
Yeah. I got Lion-O, but I didn't collect the Thundercats line. I think they're awesome.
What?
No, I think they're awesome. I like Thundercats, but I'm not like, jihad about Thundercats. I'm about He-Man. I'm just like all about Masters Universe.
You're not what about Thundercats? Say that word.
I'm not jihad about
jihad.
All right.
I like Thundercats a lot. I watched it as a kid, but I just.
You'd be a Mumra the Ever Living girl.
I almost bought Mumra. It was the exclusive, but I almost bought it.
But if they did the Ever Living form, I bet you'd buy that.
I will. Oh yes, I will buy that. I might even go back and collect them at some point. I mean, there's only so much I can spend money on too. It's like all this stuff is like really expensive.
Sure. It is. Yeah, I will say He-Man Thundercats are the one thing that I like above all else. I always make sure I've got money for that. Mm-hmm. But everything else, it's like, I have to pick and choose because our wallets are only so deep.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
It was a tough call, but I was like, I'm going to get Lion-O, and then I'll just be happy with Lion-O. So I got him.
We got to have you on more, Danielle. We're going to try to do this maybe every 2 months, 3 months. I don't know, whatever you want, whatever works for your schedule.
Yeah, drop me a line I can't do it. Obviously, it's like I got other stuff too. I teach college. I start tomorrow. I got 5 courses this semester, so I have over 100 students this semester. I
know Tyler pisses you off. I understand that.
No, I love talking to you guys. It's always fun talking to you guys, but it's just like if we can do it, drop me a line and we'll figure out a time and make it happen. And thank you for inviting me on. I really enjoyed it. I hope
What would be something that you would want to talk about on another episode? Would you want to do another commentary, a discussion, or character bio? What is something that you would really love to just sink your claws into and really dig deep on something that you get really passionate about on a forum or social media? What's something that's that you would just like, oh my God, like, is it a Chef Allen bio discussion? Is that what we have to do?
I don't know, like we get anything. All of that is good, whatever you guys want to talk about, it's fine with me. I like, we could talk. One thing I wouldn't mind talking about is like horror elements in Masters Universe, but we did that kind of last Halloween, I think. Maybe we could talk about, I don't know, anything is fine. I like it all, so we can talk about whatever you guys want,
Yeah, there's plenty of things. Like I said, whether it's discussion on a character, maybe even talking about some of those crazy kid stuff records with those unique stories. Those are always fun because so many people maybe haven't heard them or haven't heard them in years, but there's some unique stories in those that are quite interesting at times. But like you said, it's pretty much endless.
I know a lot of them are, I don't know if they're all on YouTube, but if you go on the org, like, it doesn't work. It only works if I do it with Internet Explorer. It won't work with Chrome or Firefox or anything else. If you use Internet Explorer and go to the org, they have all of most of those, like the audio files are on there. You can press play and listen. I listened to like tons of them just by going to those archives and listening. Are they on YouTube? Do you know?
Yes, most are, because you can do the ones where they show the pictures and listen to, and then the ones that just have audio. Yeah, you can catch pretty much any of them, along with a lot of those Ladybird stories as well that had cassettes. So yeah, with that really weird kind of monotone actor that me and
I hope
Tyler
you don't plan on doing that anytime soon. I don't want to listen to that guy.
Tyler, you should have heard him when Tyler listened to that guy. He said, "God, Joe, that man was painful." And I was like, yeah, I was like, I don't know. I said, now, when I was a kid listening to the kids' stuff and other golden ones, those worked for me. But I could imagine listening to those Ladybird. I've never heard such a monotone sound. And the thing was, remember, Tyler, every time the guy did a voice, it was just in different inflections. Like, there was no changing of the voice, just up or down. But it was the same voice. It was horrible.
I mean, I couldn't imagine a child in the UK, like, having like little James Talk is watching Filmation and he gets the Ladybird books. How the hell do you get into that? I mean, at least over here with the Golden Book VHS tape, the voice actors were trying to do a very good He-Man, Skeletor, Sorceress. Like, you almost feel like they're doing their best to mimic Filmation, whereas that is just like, the guy's probably puffing on cigarettes throughout each.
I know a lot of the fans who are into Ladybird books like to read them, so maybe they don't listen.
Yeah, because some of them, you know how it is with the stories, like with the Goldens or whatever. It's like, I kind of like listening and reading, but then when it came to that Ladybird, after I heard that one, I was like, dear God, I'm reading this shit myself next time. There ain't no way I'm going to listen to that guy.
The voices in your head, the ones you like to hear instead of the horrible person.
It was painful. It was painful. And Fedmon in the chat room said, hey, if we need to do a Kickstarter to get Danielle to come back on the podcast, we'll do it. We'll get some money. Do a Kickstarter to get you on.
Hey, guys, there's no, like, I should pay you to come on here because that was really, I love talking about this stuff with you guys. So it's like, I don't know, most of my friends here don't talk about, they know I'm crazy for Masters of the Universe, but they're not into it. So we can get it together for like 5 minutes. Usually Sundays, I do family stuff, but at night, sometimes I can come on. I can't come on like constantly because everybody will get sick of me and they'll never listen.
Love it.
But
I don't know, having a female, but then again, it doesn't come off like Danielle's like the feminist of the group. It comes off like she's one of the boys. So that's why I don't think it would be anything like, oh God, hey, she comes on with her feminist point of view, and that it's just a bunch of sexist.
I have a feminist point of view, but
do you now?
It's always great. I've got one thing.
Don't you guys? You should.
I was going to say, Fedmon brought up something in the chat room that I did not know. Fedmon said some of the Ladybird books tapes had more than one voice actor. He said the Big Six storybook, that one that I guess me and Tyler we discussed, that was the only one that had one voice actor. Well, I never knew that, and that's unfortunate because that's the one we went to, was the one that had the big stories. So, yeah, that was a pain.
I don't want to do them again.
And he was like, nope. Even Tyler's like, I don't care if those other ones have different ones. I don't want to do it. But no, thanks for Fedmon for letting us know. Because I never listened to the others. I just listened to the gigantic one, and it was that was a task. I tell you that. But well, Danielle, it has been an absolute pleasure. So I'll let Tyler say if there's anything he wants to say in closing before we wrap it up. But yeah, we're definitely gonna have you back some more times. Definitely a lot more.
I had a quick question. It's not He-Man related, but it is cartoon related too. Well, it kind of ties back to He-Man. Your friends at On the Run video store.
Oh, those guys, they're not. I don't know them personally. I think I heard you say that on a podcast that I'm friends with them. I'm like, I don't know them, but
you clearly. I was under the impression that you were like you hung out and you went to Sunday brunch with them or something.
No. I think they do come to PowerCon sometimes. Like I don't know them personally. I just found out that they had that, and I bought it a few years ago. So, and then when you were talking about, it's the greatest adventures of all, and Skeletor's Revenge, I wish they'd released it on DVD. I was like, they did on bootleg, but it's there, So.
Well, still, how do I contact them? Because there was a question about, because I went to their website and I found Bionic 6 through Google search, but I can't find it on their store. So I was like, how the hell do I contact these guys to make sure that they actually have this to purchase?
Do they not? have a contact us link on their website?
I don't recall seeing. I may have to check again, but I was looking specifically for that, and I just didn't know if I was missing that or not.
I'll check. I'll look into it. When I ordered it, I don't know if I had any interaction with them like over email or anything like that, but I'll look up. I'll see if I can find out for you.
Okay, maybe I just missed it because I always use my phone. I don't use desktop hardly for anything, or even my iPad for that. So maybe I just missed it. But it was one of those things where I was looking for it on the site. It wasn't showing up, but then I did a Google search for it. I found it on the Google search. And I just kind of felt like, is this legitimate? Is it,
Yeah.
So it just made me think to ask you about that.
Yeah, maybe if you do the desktop, maybe sometimes stuff doesn't show up on the phone that you see on the desktop. So if there's a contact us link, that would probably be the way to do it. But if not,
okay.
I'll look into it and see if I can find out for you.
Okay. No, B, just thought I'd ask. But Daniel, you got anything you want to plug before we let you go here?
No. Keep listening to the Fans of Power podcast. That's my plug.
God bless you.
No feminist movement you want to plug? No feminist rally or anything like that you want to
No what?
promote or anything like that? No feminist rally or promotions or
attend all feminist rallies in your neighborhood, especially in Tyler's neighborhood. Make sure that you're march right in front of his house.
You come off as like the most non-feminist I could imagine. That like I just can't imagine you being the quintessential feminist, so to speak. You're too much like one of the boys.
Well, hey, I just
or is it just
I like what I like.
Hidden?
But I do, it's like I have my beliefs, but it's like I don't know what like what do you consider
like have we ever
what do you
said,
consider feminist? Let me ask you, like, what do you mean? What do you consider feminist beliefs?
I almost feel like saying like there should be more female activity in Master of the Universe, that kind of thing. Like saying like, oh, we need to put Tila more at the forefront, or Evelyn needs to be doing a lot. Like just constantly thinking like, there should be more.
Sammy, get the hell out this room.
I just think they should all be equally represented, but I'm not saying one should be more than the other. But I think like
to me that's not a feminist point of view at all. Then
it should be like equal, like everybody in the show. Like, well, obviously He-Man is the main protagonist, but then She-Ra is the main protagonist of her show. So
when it comes to the Meteorbs, just fuck them off. There's no need for the Meteorbs at all. Screw them. They don't belong in the line.
I guess I'd say, like Tila should be in it as much as Man-at-Arms, or the Sorceress should be in it quite a bit, but she's mysterious, so you don't see her as much as you see like the characters who live in the palace, that kind of thing. But
well, at least that's the great thing when you think of Masters of the Universe. It is such a diverse world, from Masters to Princess of Power, of all the different cultures and races, and of course it's fantasy, so there's creatures and everything and genders. It's like everything is being covered in Masters and Pop, and that's what's great. It's such a diverse world of combining all of them, like you said, Masters, Pop, and New Adventures. Bring it all together, and there's some representation of everything imaginable. And
right.
That's why so that's what's great about it. You never have to worry about it, which is good. That's why when we do the podcast, like you said, it's never, we're not going to get into politics or religion or anything like that.
Oh my God. Did you really think I was trying to start like a serious fight with Danielle over feminism?
No, I was just,
too.
No, I would say that was the good thing.
You were so like, oh my God, like,
nervous.
Dude, come on, man.
We're just talking. I don't think, like, if you look at like old, I love classic movies, but sometimes there is a degree of like, okay, this is a product of its time, and that's women should be treated equally. Like, it should be equal. Everybody's a human being. Everybody should just be treated equally and given the same opportunities. So if we're talking in terms of a character in a cartoon, certainly a female character is just as compelling and interesting and well written and wonderful as the male character is as well, and vice versa. Like, they're just human being depictions of human beings and idealized heroes on screen. So,
see, I agree with that 150% though. Like, I guess I just kind of feel like, I guess I was under the impression that when we first talked to Danielle about coming on here, and she was going to give me your piece of her mind about Tila, Like that's what I was.
Well, Joe was setting that up, the battle of the sexes there.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was led to believe, and it turns out it was nothing like that. So no, I just, because that's what I'm completely always, and I have always been for that, because that's one of the strongest things about He-Man is that everybody is portrayed very, very competently, very strong and interesting and intriguing. Even though I always felt Teela was just kind of a one note, just bitching all the time. And I think it's just poor writing on that part, because he is a prominent character. That was the only thing. God, Joe, I'm sorry if I put you in panic mode there.
For a second, I was nervous. Because
I knew it. You can't lie to me, dude. As long as we've been doing this here, it was
strictly. I got, for a second, I was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ! This isn't going to happen, is it?"
No.
I don't. Fumbling and
Daniel already knows I don't like to do the whole politically correct bullshit and stuff like that too. But it's not like that's not what we're here to talk about. It was just to kind of poke and jab at Danielle in terms of that whole battle of the sexes thing. That's all that was. God, dude. I don't watch the news. I don't follow politics. You got to know better than that.
You do. You do always talk about badass alpha males.
Oh my god! only because there are no alpha males in movies and stuff like that. And they're all, everyone's being.
Good job, Tyler. Way to fucking sidetrack it all. That's fantastic. All right.
I'm just saying, I don't deny that that's something, but I'm not saying I'm trying to downplay the feminist movement in comic books and sword and stuff. No.
All right.
Is that? Did she take it that way? I'm just curious, Daniel.
No, I was just throwing it out there because it was
okay. I was just curious.
If I see an opportunity for some fun, I will.
Oh, that's what I want you to do. I want Joe to feel like he's going to shit his pants. Like, oh my god!
I think that's it. You both were relishing, making me feel uncomfortable. Even though you see this big smile, you're wondering what the hell is happening behind the mask right now. His face must be like, what the fuck is going on? Because I was like, here we go. I don't want this. So, thanks for putting me in panic mode.
There's no way me and Danielle could ever have a legitimate fight.
No.
I just don't. No. I don't think that's ever possible now.
Okay, thank God. All right.
That's not.
There we go. Well, I'm just gonna end it with what I always say. Have a powerful day.
He did no plugs or anything. What? I mean, he's not even thinking right.
I don't. Yeah, I usually don't plug. I don't plug even my site no more. I just forget. I don't know. It's just so.
If we're gonna make her the regular female on here, then we have to do our regular endings. But are we treating her like a regular guest, where we don't do the plugs and the movie quotes and all that stuff?
Oh no, you're gonna do that.
Are you saying because she's a woman on this podcast, we're not gonna do what we would normally do?
No, I think you are taking away my right to vote next.
Here we go. No.
Nazi.
No, she can always do her. Like I said, my ending is have a powerful day. She could do her ending or whatever she says, and then you got to do the movie quote. So yeah. So let's try this again. All right, guys. I just want to thank everybody that joined us in the chat room. It was great having you here. Hope you enjoyed it. We love having you and all the interaction we do. It's always a blast. And be sure to like and subscribe and ring that bell down there too, so you always get notified when we go live. I love having you. It was a blast having you, Danielle. Tyler, you're always a brick. And until next time, have a powerful day.
Alfred, let's go shopping.
Oh, well, that's easy. That's Batman.
That's reference to Danielle's long-awaited return on Capes and Commentaries as well.
That's right, the Batman commentary.
Yeah.
Good quote. Do I say, have an excellent evening?
There you go. Oh, that'll work.
That's it. There you go. All right. Thanks again, guys. See you next time.
Thank you, guys. Bye.